It will be so much more beautiful now. Someone as filthy as you fits in a beautiful place like this. I looked blankly at the person who was giving me a victorious smile. My name is Amina, and I'm a housewife in her 50s. About 30 years ago, I married my husband, Jasper, and both of our children had already left the house. Our oldest son is already married and has his own family. Just as I was relieved that my job of raising our kids is done, Jasper asked me for a divorce. It turned out he had been having an affair with a younger woman from his workplace, and she got pregnant. He wanted a divorce so he could be with her. Our kids have already left home, and when I think about my future, being with a young woman is more fun than being with an old woman like you. Sorry, but please agree to the divorce. As Jasper spoke in a casual manner, I couldn't help but let out a sigh. Jasper was always the type to take the easy way out and be easily influenced by others. He doesn't think ahead, and he would try to get through the situation even by lying, or he would run away from troublesome things and try to impose them on someone else. Indeed, he made me take care of our children most of the time, yet he would boast about how involved he was in parenting when he was with people. Because of this, I was always treated as the bad one by my in-laws. When our children were young, and we visited Jasper's parents, he would say, "Listen, she doesn't do anything at home, you know. The house is always a mess, and the cooking is sloppy. So, I have to clean up when I come back from work, and I even have to make breakfast in the mornings. That's why I'm worried about our kids' upbringing." Jasper deliberately told his mother like that, and she took it seriously. It's unacceptable for a wife who is supposed to take care of everything at home to make her hardworking husband do housework when he comes back from work. Jasper works so diligently, so please don't make him do household chores. When they were small and things were hectic, there were times when the house was not always tidy, and sometimes we only had toasts for breakfast indeed. However, Jasper never once helped with the cleaning, and of course, he never prepared breakfast either. In fact, we were both working full-time jobs, and equally tired. But even if I tried explaining that to my mother-in-law, she would retort,
"Jasper would never lie. You're just trying to shift everything onto him and have fun yourself. You're a bad wife."
In the end, I would always end up being attacked by my mother-in-law. When I got home and complained to Jasper, he responded nonchalantly, "What's the big deal about that? We only meet occasionally, and Mom will be happy if she thinks I'm doing fine. You just need to tolerate it a little. Besides, it's true that you're a bit careless about cleaning and cooking." He said it without caring much, and showed no sign of reflection. As the children grew, we gradually became distant from his parents. Since it was quite a distance to travel by car, though we occasionally received sarcastic phone calls, they never actually came to our house, making things much easier than before. For Jasper, this divorce is probably not a big deal, just a change in the person he lives with. "It's fine if we get divorced, but let's discuss things like the future and the alimony properly before formally proceeding with the divorce," I said with a sigh. "The future? It would be just you leaving this house, wouldn't it?" His words made me want to bury my head in my hands. "Since you had an affair, I'll definitely ask for alimony, and we need to divide the shared property properly. Even though there's no mortgage on this house anymore, it's still in both our names. We won't get divorced until all the discussions are done," I declared firmly. To which Jasper grumbled, Yeah, I got it. You're so naggy. You are always like that, and that's why I'm leaving you." He made a displeased face while saying that, and honestly, I was fed up with Jasper's personality too. I thought about arguing back, but decided to stay silent as it seemed troublesome. After that, Jasper and I discussed various matters, and were able to reach a mutual understanding for our divorce. A few days after the divorce, I had some business to attend to, so I took the day off from work and was walking across the bridge near my house. When I was about halfway across, I noticed an elderly woman peering down into the river. Over railing. At first, I didn't think much of it, and was going to pass by, but to my surprise, she tried to climb over the railing. Her body was not lifting properly and she was flailing about, but she was clearly acting strangely, so I couldn't help but talk to her. "Hello, ma'am. What are you doing up there?" I said as gently and slowly as possible. She replied, still looking downward, "Oh, it's nothing. Sorry for showing you something strange." I said cheerfully, "It's all right, but it's dangerous to be up there. Would you like to talk a bit?" I asked. The elderly woman responded in a quiet voice, "Thank you. I guess spending a little time together won't hurt." As we walked side by side, I contemplated what to do. She told me that she was not from this area, and apparently she was walking while lost in thought, and she ended up coming to that bridge. "I've lost my husband, with whom I'd been for so many years, and I've been feeling quite lonely. Sometimes, I can't help but think, it might be easier to be with him again," she confided. Had I not approached her, was she planning to jump off the bridge? Although it wasn't the dead of winter, the weather outside was still chilly. I would be worried if I leave this elderly woman who must be tired from all the walking outside for too long. Additionally, her face looked somewhat familiar, as if I knew her from somewhere. Feeling guilty about just walking away, I suggested, "My home is nearby. Would you like to stop by my house and talk for a little while?" I asked her. She seemed taken aback for a moment, but then smiled and said, "Is that all right? I'm so happy. I didn't expect to be treated so kindly." Thus, I decided to lead her to my house. On the way, she kept glancing around as if she were on alert. She introduced herself as Tessa. After talking for about an hour, Tessa seemed to be starting to feel better. "It's been a long time since I've talked to someone, for such a long time. I had a great time, thank you," she said, and left with a smile. She was calling a taxi on her phone, so I'm sure she'll get home safely. "Next time, I'll give you a special thank you," Tessa said with an oddly meaningful smile. I just said, "Don't worry about that, I hope I'll see you again somewhere." And the next day came. As I was heading home, I heard some commotion coming from my house. I thought there might be some construction work going on, but as I got closer to the house, I was shocked to see a bulldozer demolishing it. The roof and part of the walls were already destroyed, and I could see the furniture and appliances inside. The things inside the house are probably no longer usable. The bulldozer was being operated by an unfamiliar elderly man, but standing in front of the gate was none other than Tessa from yesterday. I approached Tessa and cautiously asked, "Tessa, what on earth is happening here?" She replied with a smile, "Oh, you're back already. I wanted to show you after it was all done if possible." Then I noticed there was another elderly woman standing beside her. "Is that you, Juliana? Long time no see," I greeted her. Although we hadn't met in a while, there was no doubt it was my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law turned to me and said with a sneer, "It'll be so much more beautiful now. Someone as dirty as you fits in a beautiful place like this." I looked blankly at the person, who was giving me a victorious smile. "I'll ask anyway, why did you do such a thing? And by the way, is Tessa your sister or something?" I asked. "Yes, I'm her older sister and I'm Jasper's aunt. I heard that Jasper was going through a tough time, so I decided to help him get back at you," Tessa replied. As I remained quiet, I asked, "What do you mean by Jasper going through a tough time?" In response, my mother-in-law became visibly agitated and said, "Did you just ask what do you mean? Don't play dumb. You couldn't even handle the household chores properly, and they say you were having an affair? Moreover, you apparently drove Jasper out of the house. You're an awful wife. So, in place of Jasper who is kind, I decided to take revenge. That house Jasper built is too good for someone like you." I let out a sigh at her outburst. So, did you have Tessa look for the location of the house to destroy it? And she went to such lengths to put on that act? I said. That's right. Juliana knew the address, but she claimed she had never been there before. So, I decided to help her. I didn't expect you to be so kind to me, because I heard that you are a terrible person. I managed to confirm the location of the house, and even though I felt guilty after you were being so kind to me, Jasper is still more important to me. Please don't take it the wrong way, Tessa said brazenly, so it gave me a headache. Although I had many things I wanted to say, I decided to say the most important thing first. I'm sorry to spoil your excitement, but this house is not mine, I said. My words seemed to confuse them, and both of them had puzzled expressions on their faces. The house you are demolishing is indeed where I lived until a few days ago. However, now it's the home where your precious Jasper lives alone. He has been planning to live with his lover very soon, I continued. Perhaps they finally understood the situation, and their faces turned pale. Tessa screamed.
No, that can't be. Yesterday, you brought us here, and even had a key.
Yesterday, I took a day off from work to go through the procedures to change the joint ownership of this house to Jasper's sole ownership. Therefore, it was still both of our property until yesterday, so I had a key and I was able to enter freely. But from today, the property is solely in Jasper's name, and I no longer have a key. We happened to have a discussion at this house today, and I just stopped by on my way home from work. I explained to them. That's why, when you mentioned that you wanted to see me again while you were leaving, I gave a vague response. I no longer live here since yesterday. I mean, I had already moved my belongings a few days ago, and I commute to work from my new place, I explained. Both my mother-in-law and Tessa looked bewildered. Actually, when I said goodbye to Tessa, I had a hunch about her true identity. When Tessa got into the taxi, she mentioned the destination, which was an address I had heard before. When I realized that it was the address of my in-laws' house, I clearly remembered who Tessa resembled. She had a striking resemblance to my mother-in-law. While I wondered why Tessa had come all the way there, I didn't think it would be such a big problem, since this house was going to be Jasper's home. However, I never imagined they would go so far as to destroy the house without permission. It was a completely insane idea, to destroy a house just because it was once a daughter-in-law's home. Actually, since the beginning of our marriage, I have told you many times that Jasper often lies and exaggerates things. If you had listened to me properly, this wouldn't have happened, I said to my mother-in-law, and she turned red with anger. Before she could shout something, a car parked nearby, and Jasper appeared from inside.
What the hell is going on? Why is the house being destroyed?
Jasper shouted in a panic. Jasper, didn't you try to deceive your mother with some vague lies? Upon hearing that, Jasper turned towards me, and finally, he noticed the presence of his mother and Tessa. Wait, why are both Mom and Auntie here? What's going on? Jasper asked. With a deep sigh, I said, You see, you lied to cover up your affair, and your mother went berserk and destroyed the house. It's like a divine punishment for always making me the villain. So, accept it gracefully. Jasper's expression turned perplexed. What? What are you talking about? I don't understand. More importantly, what are we going to do about the house? Did Mom and Auntie do this? As my mother-in-law heard his words, her shoulders trembled. No, that's not true, Jasper. It was Amina who... She tried to explain. But Tessa interrupted her.
Hold on, Juliana. That's not what you told me. I helped you because you told me that Amina was a bad woman. What are you going to do now?
She started blaming her. As the argument between my mother-in-law and Tessa began, Jasper turned to me and pleaded, come on, Amina, let's give it another try, shall we? We built that house together, didn't we? If we're together, we can build another one, right? Besides, you won't be able to find somebody to marry, will you? I scoffed at his words and retorted, what nonsense are you spouting? Why would I get back together with someone who lies and runs away from his problems, and whose mother does things like this? Just try your best to find a place to live, okay? The furniture and appliances inside are probably unusable by now. Why don't you ask your mother to take responsibility and live at their house for a while? In response to my cold remark, Jasper burst into tears.
I don't even have a house anymore. What am I supposed to do? Amina, please help me. You and I are on the same side, aren't we?
He pleaded with me, almost kneeling, but I responded coldly. You have lied and deceived so many times that now it's coming back to bite you. Besides, the divorce papers have already been submitted, and you and I are no longer together, so I have no obligation to help you. With that, I just left. I don't think that I can have a discussion with Jasper today. As I walked away, I could hear the voices of Tessa, Jasper, and my mother-in-law, all yelling at each other. Perhaps due to the commotion, the bulldozer had stopped moving. Half-demolished house might be better than completely destroyed house, I thought. After things settled down, I met Jasper once, but the house was beyond repair, so they had it demolished and turned into an empty lot. He's currently staying at his parents' house. Despite being family, he's planning to demand proper compensation from his mother. However, since she's elderly, it's unlikely she can pay the same amount as the house is worth in compensation. We divided the shared property equally, and though it was less than average, he did pay me alimony. The house he was supposed to live in is gone, so he probably doesn't have much to live on. When I met him in his worn-out suit, he once again asked for reconciliation, but I firmly refused. Since it was originally caused by the lies Jasper told, and the fact that he was having an affair, it seems brazen to me that he wants to get back together with me. Though Jasper didn't mention it, according to our children, his lover had apparently dumped him. It's no surprise that a man in his 50s, who is financially strapped, living with his elderly mother, gets dumped by a young girlfriend. My mother-in-law and Jasper are apparently arguing every day. Of course, my mother-in-law, who destroyed the house, is to blame, but it was Jasper's lie that caused the damage in the first place. They probably won't reflect on their actions, but I hope they can at least live without causing trouble for others. As for myself, I'm thoroughly enjoying living alone. Although Jasper was never violent, he did involve others and painted me as the villain. Only after being apart did I realize how much stress that caused me. It was a form of emotional abuse, in a way. The children visit me occasionally, and now I spend each day in peace,